Getting serious about money can always feel like a really daunting task, knowing where to start, what to do next. So in this video we're going to be going through a really easy step-by-step framework that you can follow in order to help get serious about your money and organise your finances. We're going to go through the bullshit that you can ignore and the things that you really should be concentrating on. How do I know that these work? Because this is me a few years ago, under a mountain of credit card debt, trying to flip a renovation property in London. This is the second video in our multi-part series. You've unfucked your finances. Let's take it to the next level. Track your spending. Let's be clear from the start. I'm not saying you need to know where every single penny goes. I'm not saying you need to know where every ruble, rupee, dime, nickel, penny is being spent on. But what you do need to understand, and what you do really need to have a reasonable grasp on, is roughly how much are you spending? Roughly where is your money going? How much is it going towards your mortgage versus your bills? And what this will really do is kind of a few key things. The first is it will really help you to identify where you're overspending. It will help you to make sure that you're saving and investing sufficiently to secure your retirement in later life. And it means that you've got those planned and unplanned expenses budgeted in for, so they're not going to potentially torpedo your financial progress.
Green 30, torpedo, torpedo, torpedo.
And with technology, this has kind of never been easier, so it does feel like it's a really easy first step. And there's this paper here that basically finds that people who record their expenses are more likely to stick to their budget, which is our next point, making a budget. Once you know where your money is going, you can then start to use that as the basis for your budget. We have gone through in great detail, link will be somewhere here, about all the different sorts of budget. Certainly one that I use is the 50-30-20 rule. This is 50% towards your needs, 30% to your wants, and 20% to your saving and investing. This follows a principle of pay yourself first, rather than getting paid, paying your needs, spending your money on whatever you want, and then hoping to save or invest whatever's left. You pay your bills, and then you make sure you're saving and investing, and then you spend what's left. And invariably what you find is that because it's all the stuff you want to spend your money on, it's way easier to make that happen. You start to find all those savings here and there so you can go to movie night, so you can go out with your friends. But let's also be very clear that what you choose to spend your budget on will be specific to you. Budget principles like the 50-30-20 budget, but also make it specific to your needs. If you've got kids, then you have childcare costs that you have to worry about. If you live in London, you probably don't have a car, so you don't need to worry about that. So just make sure that your budget is specific to you and that ultimately it fulfills your longer term financial goals. That is really the key thing when it comes to making a budget. And this is ultimately because a budget is a roadmap for your financial destination. If you want to work to the bone and retire at 40 on a modest income, then a budget is the roadmap that will help you get there. If you don't want to live like a hermit, you want to have a bit more of a life, and you're quite happy to work until your 50s or 60s, then again, your budget will get you there. So no matter what you want to do, your budget is how you are ultimately guided there. Pay off debt. Now, let's be very clear. Not all debt is equal. I don't care what anyone says. A mortgage is not the same as a credit card. So there are two different approaches you can ultimately take here. The first is the avalanche method, where you pay off the highest interest debt first, and the other is the snowball method, where you pay off the balances that are highest first. Each has its merits, and I think making sure that as you're going through and you're tracking your finances, incorporating some of your monthly income every month to paying off your debts is going to be worth doing. Now, that's not to say you could, say, cut back on your wants or cut back on some of your needs if you can in order to shift that debt, but paying down as much of your debt as quickly as you reasonably can do is worth doing. And this is especially important with interest rates on the way up. They're not forecast to go up that much more, but they're still pretty high, so it's worth doing. Build an emergency fund. Conventional wisdom is between 3 and 6 months of your living expenses in an emergency fund. That covers your car breakdown, your pipe bursting, your whatever. All that can come out of your emergency fund. And the reason why you have it is it's basically designed to make sure that if one of these incidents just doesn't torpedo your financial journey. So having that, I think, is a really important next step. Having separate accounts. This is something we talked about in quite a lot of detail in this video here. Really the key thing here is you don't want to be one of these people who has a whole bunch of different bank accounts. I just think that's insane. But just making sure that you have a current account and you're having a savings account or a couple of others. And what it basically just means is that you have individual accounts that you can just look at the balance at and you can go, that's how much I've got for that. How much is in my emergency fund? Oh, I've got this much. How much is in my savings account? Oh, I've got this much. Whereas if you just have it all in one pot, to try and get an accurate assessment can just be way more difficult. So two things here. Make sure you've got separate accounts where possible, but make sure you've got accounts that are appropriate for the job that you've assigned them. Make sure your savings account is a savings account. You're getting a decent rate of interest on it. Direct deposits. This is for a few reasons. We have this video here, which I would really recommend, link will be at the end, about automating your finances. And direct deposits are one of those things in this technologically sophisticated world that we find ourselves in, where you can just drop money into your accounts, and this really enforces the principle of pay yourself first. If you get paid and money just goes from your current account to whatever other account, it's money that you can't get your bad money habit hands on. So by making sure that you're automating as much of this as you reasonably can, I think is a key good. So in this video here, we talked about the need to automate your finances and why it's so important. And in there we have a dynamite tip that you really don't want to miss, so make sure you check out that video. Enroll in your pensions. One of the key benefits of compound interest is if you give it a long enough time horizon to work, it will do so much of the work for you. And so I'd never understand why people don't maximize their contributions to their pension accounts, because it's free money. If you contribute 3% and your employer contributes another 3%, you've doubled your money right off the bat. So making sure you're contributing not only the maximum amount that you can reasonably afford, but also the maximum amount that your employer will match is just, it's such a key hack. You pay less tax, better off for your retirement. And as is the case with automating finances, because it's money that will never hit your bank account, it just means that it's money that you're not going to be able to spend at a later date. Invest for the future. Now, the future is very loose, and that's deliberately so, but pensions are not what they used to be. And so I think unless you are in a super duper pension scheme through your workplace, I think there will always be benefit in making sure that you've got your own separate account. Now, we have a whole video series on this about going down the ISA route. Maybe you're in the US and you want to open a Roth IRA, but there are plenty of tax advantaged savings accounts and investment accounts which you can be using. And so again, just setting up automated regular deposits into those accounts, I think, is a really important thing to be doing. All this wealth that's out there, and it just means that you're in a position where you can participate. Link just here for our video on how to invest for beginners, so make sure you check that out at the end. Saving for your kids. Obviously, if you have kids, this doesn't apply, but there are all sorts of tax advantage savings accounts which you can set up for your kids. In the UK here, we have junior SIPs and junior ISAs. You can put money into a savings account which your kids can't access to either 18 in the case of junior ISAs, or I think 58 for the case of junior SIPs, and it's just a really easy way to be able to pass money on to them. Pension pots are exempt from inheritance tax, so again, it's another really easy way to make sure that they don't just spend the money at a later date. Get serious about insurance. I don't want to be too doom and gloom here, but accidents happen. If you're in the US and you obviously don't benefit from our tremendous national health service, making sure you have appropriate insurance cover, I think, is really important. Whether that's income protection, whether that's health insurance, whether that's life insurance, whether that's critical illness cover, just making sure you're covered for all those unfortunate and unforeseen circumstances in your life, I think, is just worth doing, and becomes especially important if you've got people who are financially relying on you. So thanks very much for watching. This has been our step-by-step guide on how to get serious about money. As promised at the start of the video, here are some of the links to some of the other videos that we've talked about, so make sure you're checking all of those out. There's really some key tips in there, whether it's automating your finances, and so make sure you're checking them out. And if you've made it this far, please like and subscribe. Peace out.